Any further ado, let's go way, way out to the West Coast and bring in the television play-by-play voice of the Cleveland Guardians, Matt Underwood, here to the Sam Bourquin Show. Matty, happy Friday. How are you this afternoon?
I'm good, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, bud. Hey, how are the digs at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento?
I will let you know in just about a couple hours. We haven't been in the ballpark yet. The only thing I really know for sure is that it is a ballpark that breeds offense.
Yes.
Offensive numbers are up in that ballpark. Home runs are up in that ballpark. It's a minor league facility that the Athletics are using in the interim until their permanent home is built in Las Vegas. And by the way, they're going to have a groundbreaking ceremony in Las Vegas on Monday. So that project is going forward.
Okay.
Even though a lot of us wondered, is it ever going to happen? Are they ever going to put a shovel in the ground?
Right.
It sounds like officially Monday that's going to happen. So I think this is a weekend that, I'm looking forward to see if hopefully this offense can get going. I mean, even though they did play well in San Francisco and they won 2 out of 3, had a chance to sweep the series, runs were still at a premium for both teams. The Guardians pitched really well. The Giants pitched well. It was a shame they couldn't pull off the sweep. They had a 1-0 lead late in that game. Couldn't shut the door on the Giants, but the Athletics, their pitching has struggled. They've got the worst bullpen earned run average in the majors. So hopefully that's something that can breed some runs for this Cleveland offense.
No doubt. And I know this is their home away from home future, but I think they're like 9 games under 500 at home this year. So maybe ripe for a sweep. Maybe at least we get 2 out of 3. I got to confess, yesterday I'm on the air between 3 and 6 Eastern. So obviously, we're checking the scores and we're following this and that and the other. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get ourselves a sweep here. The pitching's just been incredible. And I left here at 7:00 last night, 4:00 where you're at, and 8:00 I find out that we didn't win last night. I just assumed we were pitching so well that we were going to hang on and win. I was like, all right, so we got to regroup here a little bit. But Matty, what do you think? We talked about the offense. What or who needs to kick that thing in the pants a little bit and get going? Because we can't keep relying on Quanti and Hosey all the time. Who has to kind of step up, and maybe it's who else has to step up?
Yeah, and I think they have received contributions from guys that have been not necessarily surprising, but certainly pleasantly surprising. Like Daniel Schneemann, for example, he's had some big hits this year. Unfortunately, they went through a stretch there where they saw just nothing but left-handed starting pitching for a while. So he was relegated to coming off the bench. But he had a big 3-run home run in San Francisco that propelled them to the win. I think, he's a guy that when he gets opportunities, he can certainly impact the game. I think the one guy that they would really change the offense if he gets going is David Fry.
Okay.
And obviously, a year ago, you're talking about a guy who made the All-Star team. He had the Tommy John elbow surgery, so he's limited to only hitting. He can't play the field yet because of the throwing arm's not quite ready for that. But he's basically limited to being a DH. So he's not necessarily playing every day because you also have Kyle Manzardo, and also Stephen Vogt's got to make sure he keeps Jose Ramirez fresh. So there are some days where he uses him in that DH spot. But I think David Fry's a key ingredient to the offense, because if he can find some traction and get going, as we know, when you have a solid bat in the middle of the order, it lengthens the lineup. Doesn't seem like one guy can make that big of a difference, but I think in particular for this offense, if he gets hot, if he gets rolling, then that could help. Is it the perfect anecdote that's going to get this thing going all together? I don't know that one guy is going to necessarily, make them start averaging 5-6 runs a game, but I think he's an important piece.
Matt Underwood is our guest. He is the television play-by-play voice of the Cleveland Guardians. You can check him out tonight, 10:05 Eastern Time, the Guardians and the Athletics in Sacramento. You mentioned maybe one guy isn't enough, but if you get 2, sometimes that breeds 3 and 4, and then things become contagious. And I guess that's kind of what we're hoping for. You don't want to be the guy that's not in on the party, especially when you've been struggling for a long time. A couple of guys start putting 3 or 4 or 5 good games together, that rubs off on somebody else, and away you go. And sometimes, Matty, it's a guy who it might be the last person you would think of that starts to stir the drink a little bit for you, and then you get going.
Well, I think, to your point, a guy like Bo Naylor, he serves obviously a really important role because of what he does behind the plate as a catcher, working with all of the pitchers on the staff. Offensively, he shows flashes. You see it in small sample sizes, but he hasn't been able to put it together for, say, a week to 10 days or 2 weeks. So I think he's another guy that at the bottom of the order, you need productivity from different people in the order. It can't, as you said, it can't just be Quan and Jose at the top. You need, ideally, when the team really gets to rolling, you've got at least one guy in each third of the order that's being productive. So down at that bottom part of the order, that's been tough for them to find consistency. Now, Nolan Jones has been swinging the bat pretty well here over the last couple of weeks, so he's a guy that has been improving offensively and impacting the baseball. But, Bo Naylor is a guy that, because he plays every day, is an important piece. And, left-handed batter, he obviously shows the power. I mean, he can juice the ball and hit some home runs. So I think he's a guy that, as the saying goes nowadays around baseball, there's only a couple of catchers that are really offensive threats. So anything you get from your catching position offensively is a bonus. And for this team in particular, that's really true.
Tanner Bybee, Jeffrey Springs, the pitching matchup tonight. Tanner 4-6, 3.79 ERA, 65 strikeouts, 25 walks. I think Tanner probably needs to be a little bit more efficient. His pitch total, Matty, seems to get cooking early in games, and I'm trying to figure out. I watch him in rotation mechanics and all that kind of stuff, and I don't see anything there that would stick out to me. But what's going on with Tanner?
Well, I think he's at times, he's fighting himself with those mechanics. And, he made a slight adjustment in his delivery recently to try to free him up and throw strikes more consistently. And look, I think it's a pretty well-known theory that if you're going to get a good starting pitcher, the best chance to get him is early in the game before they settle in and find their rhythm. And to Tanner's credit, when he has not had his best stuff, when he goes out there and it's just not clicking, the doggone kid competes so hard that he rarely gets blown up.
Mm-hmm.
He may give up a couple of runs early, but he'll find a way to scratch and claw and get you, through 5, hopefully 6 innings, and then hand it off to the bullpen. So I think that's the thing you love about Tanner is the competitor in him. And, when he's got his A game, then he becomes that elite frontline starting pitcher that we all love to watch. And hopefully that's the game we see coming right out of the chute tonight, because to your point, if he can get through some of those early innings without a 20, 25, 30 pitch inning, then that enables him to get deeper into the game. And look, what we haven't touched on so far is, to me, the most important aspect of this team as we get closer to the All-Star break and into the second half. And that's the wear and tear on the bullpen, because they play so many close games, so many 1- and 2-run games, that Stephen Vogt is going to the well, the same guys. And you have to, when it's a close game and you're trying to win it, you're going to Hunter Gaddis, you're going to Cade Smith, Tim Herron, and hopefully Emmanuel Clase. But when you continue to use those guys night in and night out, yesterday was a perfect example. Some of those guys were not available. And so, instead of the big dog, it's some of the other guys that have to eat up some innings at times. But, Matt Festa's in there in a high leverage situation. He hasn't asked him to do that a lot this year. And, and then you got Nick Enright coming in there, who's a young kid who's still trying to figure things out. Great arm, but just doesn't have the innings and the experience to handle some of those situations. He made one mistake. Giants got a base hit, scored 2 runs, and that turned the game. So that will be Stephen Vogt's biggest challenge going forward, is finding a way to get some other help for the big dogs in the back end of the bullpen.
And speaking of that back end, Emmanuel Clase, that he's had a couple hiccups this year, not many. Does it look to you, for the most part, like he is getting himself back into the groove and can stay that way for a little while?
Yeah, I think so, Sam. I mean, look, Clase was otherworldly last year. His earned run average was under 1 for the entire season. You just don't see that very rarely. I mean, that's a special season. So I think he's still been very good. It's just that once you set the bar at that kind of level, we're human. We expect that he's going to be able to do that again. And it's probably just unrealistic expectations. He's still very good. He's still, I bet if you pulled all of the general managers in baseball, there probably isn't a team that wouldn't take him in a heartbeat. So, yeah, he's still an elite closer. And I think, to what I was saying before, getting Trevor Stephan back, getting Eric Sabrowski back, these guys are rehabbing. Hopefully we'll see them here at the big league level soon. Those could be two really important arms to try to ease some of the burden off of, Gaddis and Cade Smith and Tim Herron on that regular basis.
Matt Underwood is our guest, television play-by-play voice to Cleveland Guardians. You can check them out tonight, the whole crew in Sacramento this weekend. 10:05 first pitch tonight, Cleveland Guardians TV, and Maddie and the boys will have it for you late night tonight. Little West Coast baseball. We'll have it for you Saturday and Sunday as well out in Sacramento. After it was a rough series in Seattle. It really was. And I'm sure some guys were down a little bit, and they picked it up, and they went to Frisco. They got 2, and now you're going to Sacramento. You're a lot closer to things than I. Do you ever get a chance to feel the vibe of the team day to day, or maybe series to series? And what do you pick up on, if anything?
I think it sounds cliche, but the one thing about this club is that they are able to separate day to day. Because when we started that trip, I remember the first telecast in Seattle came on the air, and I said, I'm not ready to call this a crossroads in the season or a pivotal series. But after getting swept in Seattle, now we show up in San Francisco, and I was like, okay, now we're here. Now we're there.
Yeah, right. Yep, I felt the same way.
It didn't take long, but now we're there. And what did they do? They responded, and that's a credit to the players being able to put Seattle behind them. Hey, okay, it didn't go well. They didn't play well in really any phase of the game, and the Mariners took it to them. So now you go to San Francisco, they're riding high. They're 10 games over 500 going into that series. They had just made the trade for Rafael Devers. The energy in that ballpark in San Francisco was off the charts, and I thought, oof, they could be in trouble because this is a team that's now licking their chops. And what do? They go in there and shut them down. They played phenomenal defense. I mean, there were so many great defensive plays from Stephen Kwan in left field to Angel Martinez and Carlos Santana. It was really a fun series to watch if you like baseball because it was low scoring. You had to do the little things, and they played really well. So that, to me, is the embodiment of what Stephen Vogt has created, a team that fights. They play hard. It's not always perfect. It's not always beautiful, but I think their ability to separate yesterday from today has served them well so far this year.
Yep, no doubt. And I think that even may be a little bit of the carryover from the Tito effect because he was like the same way. Hey, forget about yesterday. Let's worry about today, and we'll go from there. This will be the 74th game. We go 162, and I'm not saying, this is like you were thinking about the crossroads after the sweep. Whatever happens in Sacramento happens against the Athletics. But there are some big, big series coming up for this baseball team, and they're going to be coming home after a long road trip. How big would it be, Maddie? Let's just get 2 out of 3, or maybe even a sweep. What would that do for this club before they get on the big plane to come back home?
I think it's, last year we heard the refrain throughout the season that they were trying to treat each game, each series, like it's a playoff situation. That's difficult to maintain that kind of intensity over the course of 6 months because, again, you're asking guys that are playing every single day. Jose Ramirez rarely takes an inning off, let alone a day off. And so you're going to go through ups and downs. I mean, physically, guys are going to show up to the ballpark some days feeling like $1 million. Some days they're going to be dragging themselves through the door because of just the physical grind that it takes to get through the season. So I think what this team needs to do is go out and just worry about today and go out and play a good game tonight. And then when, whatever happens, you show up the next day and shed it and go with the same kind of game plan, same kind of mental approach. And I think that what this team knows better than anybody is that you've got division games that are going to start piling up here. We haven't played the White Sox since April. So you're going to have games with the White Sox that are division games. Obviously, you're going to see the Twins again, the Royals again, the Tigers. Those are going to become, really big series because of the swing in the standings one way or the other. And, by the way, 2 of those teams are fighting Cleveland for that wild card position as well. So I don't know that the Tigers are ever going to come back to the pack. They seem like they are on a mission.
Yep.
don't look like they're going to stub their toe anytime soon. So it could very well turn into a fight for the wild card, and there are a lot of teams in the mix.
Yep, I agree. I think Detroit's kind of separated maybe a little bit too much, and we'll have to worry about us. Worry about us, and then we'll start the wild card scoreboard checking here probably sooner than later. Matt Underwood is our guest. We got about a minute to go. It is a fill in the blank Friday edition of the show. Before we go, Matt, your biggest pet peeve is blank.
Rudeness.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it brings a smile to my face when I see simple courtesies out and about. And traveling as much as I do, I see a lot of humanity.
Yeah, you sure
in
do.
The city streets, but opening a door for someone, it could be simple as a please or a thank you.
Yep.
Not, hey, can I get a sandwich? Can I get this? No, you want to work here? You can go get it yourself. How about just say please? May I have?
Yeah.
Simple, common courtesies. I hate it when that goes by the board. It drives me nuts.
I couldn't have said it better myself. All right, calm down, Matty. You got a game to do tonight. Hey, thanks for coming on. Enjoy the rest of the West Coast trip, and safe travels home, and we'll catch you up down the road. Thanks again, pal.
Always a pleasure, Sam. Have a great day. Thank
you. Matt Underwood, Cleveland Guardians TV. They'll have the Guardians and A's tonight, 10:05 the first pitch. You can check them out on Cleveland Guardians TV.